It was one of the biggest sporting events we've seen in this country since the war.
I can't think of another all-British pairing of such sustained ferocity and intensity.
My word, what a contest this is!
All good right-hand punch there, Jim. No bubbles here.
It has landed with a few fierce hooks as well.
Toe-to-toe, it's a barroom brawl once again.
I believe God put Maradona on this earth to score goals, Steve Davis to pop balls, and Nigel Benn to kick ass.
I'm not interested in watching boxing, it's quite tedious.
Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank, the two greatest boxers in a generation. Rivals, opponents, deadly enemies, destined to clash both inside and outside the ring.
I would have had it with him any time, anywhere. That's how much I detested him.
For me, it was never a matter of hate. This was an individual who I needed to win against in order to, well, get out of a masonette flat and get into a house.
Benn, the people's champion, against Eubank, the man the nation loved to hate. It became a battleground that ignited the public and changed the face of British boxing.
They are the pivotal figures in British boxing history of the 90s. Long before they ever got around to even winning titles, you could see that this was a fight that was going to happen, that would have to happen.
In the traditional heartlands of British boxing, it's not unusual for young men caught up with street gangs to find the boxing gym as a salvation from a life of crime. Before he was 16, the young Nigel Benn had been in trouble with the police for receiving stolen goods and GBH, as well as shoplifting.
I'd go and hang up with all the other kids and do stupid things. Not mugging or burglary or anything like that. Shoplifting, Woolworths, Marks and Spencer, nicking the velvet jacket and things like that, nicking watches off the bands in Woolworths.
It's always pretty wild, like, you know what I mean? It was a little bit of a job to keep him under control. I used to be very worried about him. I said, I don't mind what you do. If you nick anything, I said, I'll kill you.
He could see the way I was going. Instead of going down the straight and narrow, I was kind of like bending off.
I said to him, how about joining the army, Nigel? He said, yeah, that's a good idea, Dad. But he was still the same boat in the army, like, you know, still gets into trouble in the army.
Started boxing in the army, and that gave you the discipline, what you needed to be a world champion. And I thought from there, I thought I'm going to give it a shot.
Boxing for Benn meant a way out. After winning every bout he fought in the army, he left and began to catch promoters' eyes as a promising amateur.
Nigel Benn comes from Mark Kaler's old club, and he's trying to win the same middleweight crown that Kaler won back in 1980. Benn, the one-time soldier with the Royal Fusiliers, now works as a store detective. And he's hurt Malfar badly this time. He reels back against the ropes and takes a compulsory standing count.
Well, when I won the ABA title, they got scouts all out already looking at you. You don't know, but they're out clocking you, seeing how good you are. And then they bring you this big full, here, you get that, just sign there. And you do.
Good right, and it's all over.
As a young Nigel Benn started his professional career in England, the man who would become his nemesis was across the Atlantic, still too busy breaking the law to worry about pulling on any boxing gloves.
I was smoking marijuana, I was smoking cigarettes, I was drinking alcohol, and I wanted all of that to stop. And I had other bad habits, not substance, but sleight of hand, let's say.
He was very rude. Very, very rude guy.
Eubank's criminal tendencies beat Nigel Benn hands down. He was suspended from school 18 times in 1 year before, after time in a children's home, his father took him to join his mother in the United States.
I went into a gymnasium in New York in about 1983 to keep myself in good condition. Because I couldn't afford the gym fees, I used to sweep the gymnasium and make sure that when it rained, all the buckets catched all the water.
First 3 weeks, the gym called me and said, your son going to make champion.
After a handful of professional bouts in America, Eubank returned home, assuming he'd be snapped up by Britain's top promoter, Frank Warren.
Oh, he wanted a big salary and a signing-on bonus, and I think he wanted a flat to live in and all this, but, you know, I wasn't interested in that.
Warren had already found a fighter who could guarantee spectacular knockouts and created the Dark Destroyer.
Benn was the ultimate fighting machine. I mean, he was a fighting animal. I don't say that in any derogatory sense, but he was a man who lived to fight, whose whole life revolved around boxing and revolved around violence too.
With a bit of luck, you'll be able to leave by 5.
When Benn left Warren to be represented by black boxing manager Ambrose Mendy, his promotional image went through the roof.
In England, there weren't too many black brothers in sport at the manager side, and I thought, well, if I can help bring another black brother through, I'm going to do that.
Boxing has never been marketed properly in this country since the days of Jack Solomon. Frank Warren thinks that putting a boxing on an arena that contains 5,000 people is hallelujah days.
I'm going to stay in the fight. I'm going to make it right. I said, then big right.
Oh, for goodness sake. What a punch! And it's another first-round stoppage. And that's
By the time he was 24, Benn was Commonwealth champion, and 2 years later, the Dark Destroyer became a household name, beating American Doug DeWitt to become Britain's first middleweight champion since Alan Minter. For potential wannabes, he was clearly the man to aim for. For the spurned Eubank, a promotional saviour was to come from an unlikely sport. The man who in the 80s had tuned Britain's televisions onto snooker was looking to do the same in the 90s to boxing.
The first words Eubank came up to was, I'm an athlete and I know my value.
And we done a deal like that. It was as quick as that.
And everyone said to me, why are you wasting your time with him? And I said, there's a little something there. There's a little bit of magic.
In the red corner, Chris Eubanks.
Hearn's promotional acumen soon made him realise that that bit of magic was the key to success. In the new boxing Hearn envisaged, Eubank's fast-growing undefeated record would not alone be enough.
Before, in the good old days, all you did was make a good match, print your posters and wait for the punters to come and buy their tickets. Hearn thought that wasn't good enough. You know, you had to go a stage further. You had to go out in the marketplace and sell this as a product, as a whole package, you know, an entertainment package. He recognised, I think, that people have to have a villain. There has to be the man you love to hate, you know, in the old wrestling cliche, the sort of McManus figure. And he saw that role wasn't being filled in British boxing, and he chose it for himself.
Barry's ideas were his and his own, and his wife's, because she actually picked simply the best. My talent and my self-belief was my own.
The secret of making sport successful is to develop almost a soap opera connotation, where you build the character as much as the sport, and develop this ongoing saga, if you like, of building to ultimate showdowns. And of course, Eubank Benn was an ultimate showdown.
Ambrose Mendy's standing right here. I want your boy. He belongs to me. He's mine.
Inside and out of the ring, Eubank was beginning to make good copy, and consequently a clash with the champion became more likely.
Boxing is a mug's game. This is what I mean. I don't like the business. There are too many skull duggers out there in this game.
Moving his attention specifically to the people's champion, Eubank's hate figure status grew and transformed the idea of a fight with Benn from a possibility to a raging necessity.
Find a man intolerable in that he's so wild. I have no time for such people. He has no class as far as I see it.
He was the first person to come out and slag me off. And so he lit the fuse. He lit the fuse good.
Christopher? I have to say, there seems an element of genuine hate between these two, Ambrose.
For sure.
I don't hate the man. I just want his WBO title.
I personally do hate him. I personally do hate him.
So is there any point to me asking you to shake hands after signing the contract?
No.
One was trying to take away something that the other one wanted to keep. You couldn't expect them to be just friendly.
And why won't you face him tonight?
I'll face the man in the ring. I can face him. I'm speaking to you. You're asking me questions.
Anytime.
You're asking me questions. I'm being polite and I'm facing you. I'm looking in your face. I have nothing to say to Nigel. I come up the hard way. I didn't have Frank Warren.
Myself, boy.
You had your time. Let's have some parliamentary procedure here, all right?
Oh, God.
I didn't come up the easy way. I came up hard. I didn't have Frank Warren. I didn't have Ambrose Mendy.
Imagine your business has gone bust and you can't get a job. The economy's crashed and your family is starving.
Morning, Felix. What do you want?
Rebuilt.
On UK Horizons, it's contagious.
It involves Vaseline and a shoe on the size of a cricket bat.
And get this.
Millionaires only need apply.
Smash the pedal into the deep pile carpeting.
I'm such a hooligan.
This car was built to be driven.
There's no logical reason why a car like this should be allowed to exist.
Automania. You'll go mad for it. Every weeknight from 7, only on UK Horizons.
I shall take you out on the night of the 18th of November. You are mine, you belong to me. I am the man, and I will continue to be the man for as long as I am undefeated. I am the man.
That night we fought Nigel Benn at the NEC was one of the most exciting nights of my life. It was unbelievable. We had invested as a company £250,000 in the development of Chris Eubank's career, and this was the night we were going to find out whether we'd been wasting 2 or 3 years of our time.
Despite 3 months of meticulous training by both boxers, the champions' camp were about to experience a major problem.
Well, the morning of the fight, Nigel got up very early. He got up at about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and he went down to check weigh, where the scales were at the thing. You're supposed to have a check weigh in an hour before the fight. And anyway, he got on the scales and he found that he was 6 3/4 pounds overweight.
Oh, he'll be all right, he'll get rid of 6.5 ounces. He went, no, 6.5 pounds.
I wanted to cry. I thought to myself, well, I ain't been eating nothing. But because I was shut in the room so much, like eating fruit, I was eating really well. When I got on the scales, I nearly died.
He had 3 hours and 15 minutes to lose 6.5 pounds. All of a sudden, everything Nigel had worked so hard to do the hard way was at risk. Nigel was running around an underground roundabout, just trying to work a sweat up. At which point Nigel ran 3 miles on a treadmill with all these clothes on. He lost 2 pounds doing that. He then shadow boxed, fully dressed, with 4 layers of clothing on, in a steam room for 45 minutes. He'd lost another 2 pounds. Time's getting on now. We've got to start making our way back for a 12 o'clock weigh-in. He looked like a zombie.
11 stone, 5 3/4 pounds.
11 stone, 5 3/4 pounds, ladies and gentlemen.
After the weigh-in, he couldn't even eat. He ordered this, that and the other and on the trolley, and then all he ended up eating was half a sandwich. He couldn't even eat where he'd done so much work. He was absolutely fatigued.
The whole situation gets turned on its head by the weight. So all of a sudden you're starting to think about, what can I do? We'll give our guy an artificial stimulant, then I'll take the urine test. Let's cut Chris's music off mid-entrance as an what's the most outrageous thing you can think of? And it was that. So Ambrose said, yeah, let's do it. I had the walkie-talkie with the DJ, and he was told, in no uncertain terms, that if he didn't obey instructions, he would not get paid. While Chris was making his big, strutting, affected walk with people booing and whistling, and he got into the middle of the NEC, I said to the walkie-talkie, now.
Take his music off. Yeah, good shout.
I went crazy. I mean, I rushed upstairs to the sound man and wanted to kill him because he said, you know, he was just holding the tape till it broke. I'm not usually have a short fuse, but there are certain occasions which demand some action.
I said, Barry, don't worry about it. Here's only a record. Forget about the record. We've got to get out there and do the fight.
Eubank is coming out now. Barry Hearn leading him in. And this man, the man they love to hate.
Nothing worried him, nothing got to him. I remember bandaging his hands up and he went, he's nervous here. And I'm all right. But he wasn't. Couldn't believe he was so focused.
The hype is over. It's time for the fighting. The round one, here we go.
This was the night when he had to put up or shut up. He had to show us that he was the fighter he'd been telling us, or else he would crawl away into the woodwork.
Let's not forget that one of those punches can end the fight. Just keep your eyes on this one. This is going to be a good one way or the other. No jabs. Look, there's no jabs here at all. It's just a complete war. Slam bang. Oh, a right uppercut. Looks a good right hand from Eubank.
I've got to say, Barry, that Eubank is looking a little shaky at this point.
Certainly is.
The first 3 rounds, it was so ferocious. I thought maybe if he keeps on at this pace, I'll have to stop.
All I wanted to do was just nail him good. As long as I hit him in the body, I knew it was hurting him. I knew it was hurting him because he was just covering up so good his body.
It's the body punches going to do it for Benn. The right hand are going to do it for Eubank. Oh, maybe the writing on the wall now for the challenger. The body shots clearly hurting him.
In the 4th round, he caught me with a shot. We were in a clinch. And when you go into a clinch, you actually put your head over his shoulder. And when you do that and drop your head, your jawbone automatically opens. When your jawbone opens, your tongue slips in between your teeth. And you bounce the opponent, so he goes back a bit, and you pull back, and he's pulled back. Boom, and he's hit me with this uppercut. It was like a 1/2-inch gash in my tongue. And if I would have told the referee or my corner that I was swallowing all this blood, or they would have seen that cut, the fight would have been stopped in accordance to the fact that blood curdles, and that could have stopped me breathing. I mean, your intellect is constantly telling you, listen, okay, this is too tough, quit, you know? But your integrity says, listen, you can't, there's millions of people watching.
Benn's up.
And Eubank comes storming in.
Benn is in trouble. That was a brilliant left hook.
Champ on the ropes and taking punishment.
Big trouble.
This comes back.
Benn is a straightforward fighting man. I mean, he'll walk straight at you and take your head off. That's his style of fighting. But Eubank operated on a different level entirely. He was trying constantly to dislocate Benn, I suppose, to confuse him and bewilder him, and it did work to an extent. I think it did unsettle Benn and give Eubank that little extra psychological edge.
No jabs. Look, there's no jabs here at all. It's just a complete war. Slam bang.
If we wondered whether Eubank could take a shot, we're finding out tonight. He's talking to Benn now, taunting him.
Yeah, well, come on in, let's go for it.
I got you. Nah, you haven't. Yes, I have. Nah. Yeah, nah.
Yeah, got you, man. No, you never. Oh, yeah, you did.
Look at him. Jesus, look at that right hand.
He caught me with a wicked thumb in my eye.
Benn smiles through the pain. Covers up.
Pricking me with a needle in my eyes, like pain just shooting up to my head all the time. And I just couldn't get way of it, because I don't know what eye it was, but wherever the punches were coming, I couldn't see them coming. And, you know, it just feels something. You think, God, that hurt.
That for a right hand. My God.
And the left. And Benn groggy, and the left eye completely closed now. The champion in desperate trouble.
Badly shaken.
But spitting defiance at the challenge.
Television sanitizes boxing. It sort of filters out the violence. You can't see that little fleeting moment in a man's eyes, for example, you know, when you know that a fight has been won or lost in that split second. that indefinable moment when he accepts defeat.
This is it. Go! This is the end of it.
This is a desperate round for the champion, who was so tired.
He's really at 6s and 7s here. He's in big trouble. Eubank has got to take this opportunity. Here we go.
It's all over. It's all over.
What a fight. Brilliant. Absolutely lethal. Right at the top draw. Up there with the best fights I've ever seen.
We had a good fight. Really good fight. I'm not a sore loser. I was just very disappointed losing to him because I didn't like him.
I'd been winded two or three times, which leaves you exhausted anyway. My ribs were bruised. I urinated blood for probably 2-3 days.
I don't know, I'm in too much pain to talk, really.
What?
Pain? I'm in too much pain to talk.
It was boxing at its rawest. I mean, that's the great core of the appeal of boxing, is it strips a man right down to the basics, where it's just, you know, one man's will against another man's will. And that fight, I think, personified that concept more than any other British fight that I've ever seen.
Benn was still the people's champion, despite having lost his title, and the public demanded a rematch. But Eubank, now calling the shots, was making the most of the belt.
Now look into the camera. Be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. I'm the man, and if I decide to give the opportunity to fight me again, then you should think yourself privileged. But as for now, I think I'll make you wait in the queue for a little while.
It made sense for me, as Nigel Benn moved into my camp as well, to build them separately. This rematch could happen at any time. No one was going to forget that fight. There was no rush. Whenever it did happen, it was going to be a huge, huge fight. And it was going to be a similar fight of desire and passion and danger.
Eubank now looked towards someone who had actually been booked as the warm-up act to his title-winning fight. Yet Michael Watson, the only other man to have stopped Benn, was a force to be reckoned with, in the ring, if not outside it.
Michael Watson was not box office. Benn was box office, Eubanks was box office. I don't know what he got, Watson, but he wasn't box office.
It was a harsh illustration, I think, of the way boxing works, you know, where the image that you present and the way you're packaged counts for so much more than what's in the package.
His profile only really went up to national television side when he fought Eubank.
Moving up to super middleweight, Eubank defended his world title, winning on a controversial points decision, which only served to cement his status as the anti-hero of British boxing.
Champion of the world, Chris Eubank!
Do you think you deserved to win on Saturday?
Yes, I did. I fought a very good fight. I ran out of steam because I lost 11 pounds in 3 days.
Yeah, you looked unfit.
Yes. I'm not going to go into all of that. I just want to show Michael Watson that this belt belongs to me. And it's going to continue. Thank you. The likes of Michael Watson will not take my title. The rematch, if he wanted, in fact, let me just say, right, because I'm quite harassed by what these papers have been saying, but such is life. I can understand that. I'm going to write to the WBO myself, and I'm going to ask them to give Michael a rematch. Michael Watson was the people's champion, and I was a braggart, an upstart who needed to be stuck away. At least this was the point of view that the newspapers had. And it seemed to me that the press had won at that particular point in time in making me, the boxer, just into a boxer, into a nasty character. And I really felt bad about that. And so that was so much more pressure for me in the second fight with him. Because I thought, well, if I lose to him, then it's just going to be believed that I'm just a horrible, nasty man, and I'm not.
In front of 16 million viewers, the rematch ended in tragedy. Eubank, the man who had denounced boxing as barbaric, punched Watson into a coma.
It was probably the most mentally horrendous time of my career because I lost 8 of the 11 rounds and I scored with a punch. And in scoring won the fight but then left him paralyzed.
Something had disappeared after the Watson fight, some instinct to finish. Not necessarily to finish an opponent, but perhaps thinking of how Watson himself was injured, where Watson was winning, went in to finish. And I think mentally that may have left a scar on Eubank, that he was concerned about going in for the finish because of what happened to Michael.
Eubank's hate figure status now grew as he took on opponents who were not seen as credible, winning contests on more controversial points decisions.
No doubt in my mind, Eubank has won.
Hearn at the time, how can I put it? I think he lost his way. Chris Eubanks was picking his own opponents, and some of those opponents and some of those fights were bum fights. Might have done his bank balance a bit of a favour, but didn't do him any favours as far as credibility is concerned.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision.
I did give him easy fights, and Eubank wasn't at his best in easy fights. Eubank needed the challenge. We, as the paying public, we don't have a right to watch a man kill himself every week. You have to have the odd war, of course you do, to sustain the interest. But then some days you go to work if it's an ordinary day at work, and some days it's a special day at work. The special days, however, come with special payment, and that was the whole reason behind building Eubank Benn 2.
Come and fight me. Give the public what they want to see. Not all these John Jarvis who's had 7 fights in 7 years. Fight someone like me who's been fighting all the time and who wants to have a fight with you.
It might have a bigger effect on Nigel.
The people's champion had been quietly mounting a comeback. Still yearning for the chance to meet Eubank again, he was about to increase his marketability by winning a world title abroad for the 2nd time in his career, beating an Italian in Italy to win the WBC super middleweight title.
Ben's got it. He's got it.
At ringside, there was an especially interested party.
Oh, this is great. Well done. Now we can do business. Now we can do business. You hear me? Yeah. Now we can do business. Chris, are we going to get this fight on?
Nigel has accepted. I accept. I mean, let's do it. Yeah. I mean, I'm here. I'm ready. Please give the men the money. If they won't give you the money, then please compromise your...
I'll compromise. I'll go and do what you do. Fight anyone. I'll go and look in the top 10 or maybe top 30 and bring him up from the top 30 and put him in the top 10. That's what I'll do.
Okay, well, I'm not going to argue.
Anyway, we ain't going to say it. See you later on.
Nigel was desperate. He wanted to beat Eubank because Eubank had beaten him. He's a very proud warrior, and he wanted his... He felt he was the superior world champion, with the WBC being perceived in the business world as being a better belt, if you like, than WBO. Eubank was just pure money. He gets paid for doing his job, and he was confident of winning, so he was happy, and the fight and the deal was struck.
Yes, we got it on. This is the fight. This is what the British public want to see. Matter of fact, this is what the boxing world wants to see.
The largest and most brutal conflict in human history.
Eubank Benn 2 was the first ever fight between 2 British world champions, and the scale of the event demanded the involvement of American television.
With Don King Productions.
Cook, baby, cook!
Oh, Christopher!
Don King's contract for the fight ensured boxing's biggest ever audience. It also promised him control not only of the winner of the fight, but also the loser.
Prepare to welcome to the ring the WBO Super Middleweight Champion of the World.
After the fight, Barry Hearn would lose both his fighters, but his main concern in the build-up was making sure Chris Eubank's walk-in went without a hitch this time round.
Extraordinary promotional achievement and an extraordinary compliment to the memory of how good the first fight had been, that 40,000 people would come out on a cold Saturday night in the open air to watch a rematch.
The WBC Super Middleweight Champion of the World, the Dirt
fight, you got these tingles down your body, and this is it, you know, God, you dare not lose. You dare not lose.
Just listen to the atmosphere here in Old Trafford. 45,000 people are making this absolutely at fever pitch. Fairly quiet sort of opening in truth to the start, to the fight though.
They try to box more, both of them try to box more this time. Not get involved with taking the punches like they did before. They were both more clever this time.
Oh, now it's really livening up now, and it had to do that. Loves to tear up Nigel Benn now, that suits him. He wants to draw Eubank at the swapping punches with him.
Really, I was always just trying to survive in there with Ben.
He felt that one and it hurt, but Ben now senses that this could be his night. Left jab from Eubank. You can hear the crowd chanting Eubank, Eubank. You can hear the rivals chanting, and there is nothing between them. Now Ben goes to work, and another low one from Nigel Benn. That was below the belt, and Eubank just holds on. Larry O'Connell.
I didn't really hit him though because he wears his pants up here.
All right, he wore his shorts fairly high, but the referees, they're good referees, they take that into consideration.
Larry O'Connell, I think, saw that one, and Ben now.
That didn't really hurt because I always wear two protectors, but I needed time because you need to think. And I played for a little time, and the referee, you know, he's hit you low, fine, but come on, we've got a contest here, we've got people watching, come on, and he gets you back into it.
The point deducted from Ben would not affect the result unless the fight went the full distance. But after 11 rounds and ringside pundits unable to split the two, everything hung on the final 3 minutes.
To one of the most thrilling rounds.
I said, listen, mate, I said, you've got to stop him. I said, you've got to stop him this round. Get out and stop him, I said, because it's all on this round. You've got to win it. Either way, you've got to win this round. That's how close it was. We both knew.
Slipping on the canvas there. Left hook. I don't think he's got an awful lot left, but here he fires back again. He's going to have to spring into life here.
Between these two magnificent warriors, I think that Chris Eubank is perhaps just edging it, but I couldn't argue if somebody said differently. It's been that sort of fight, and just listen to the crowd. They are loving it. 30 seconds to go. It's going to go to the judges' scorecards. This has been a magnificent contest. Who's going to win it? Ben thinks he's won it. Eubank thinks he's won it. I tell you what, there's no loser out there tonight.
I had Ben just about ahead. I think from memory, even a point, just one round ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of boxing, here are the score totals. Judging ringside, Harry Gibbs scores about 115, 113, Chris Eubank.
Thought Ben won it.
Harold Castellano scores about 114, 113, Nigel Benn.
One each.
When they were announcing the decision, he was looking at me, I was looking at him. And I said to him, listen, you know, all this bad feeling that we're supposed to have, let's just get out the winner now, you know. Regardless of the decision, give me a hug.
Chuck Hassett scores about 114 to 114, even a draw. The decision
Yes, it's a draw. Well,
draw.
we thought Ben just stole it, Jim, but we weren't a bit surprised by a drawn decision.
This has got to be a draw. I think, you know, some people might have a word and some people there. Just walk straight out the ring. For someone coming packing back, say, oh, Nigel, oh, go on, get away.
What a fantastic decision. Almost divine intervention, if you will.
Eubank's first words to me, I remember quite clearly, was, what does a draw mean? And I looked at him and said, it means we can do it again. He said, I like draws.
My man, this is Nigel, baby. Gonna change the scope of history.
While Don King was celebrating the acquisition of his two new boxers, Chris Eubank and Barry Hearn were planning to exploit a loophole in the fight's contract.
Of hard work, labor, dedication, commitment, sacrifice. You negotiate, you know, brutally. You're like a barracuda, you know what I mean? You know what I mean in there when you're negotiating.
I've never actually wanted to be with Don King. And the draw was never put in the contract. But if I would have lost or won, I would have been tied to him.
Sitting at breakfast, and Don was waxing eloquently as he does about what a fight, 45,000 people, Barry Hearn, you're the greatest promoter the world has ever seen, I love you, man. And now this is what I'm going to do with Benn, and this is what I'm going to do with Eubank. And I just said to Don, well, have you read that contract you signed? And he looked at me and said, yeah. I said, I don't think you're involved necessarily, are you? And he said, why do you, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, well, if they won, sure, they're with you. If they lost, they're with you. This fight was a draw, Don. These boys are free. They can fly. And Don's reaction was, you son of a bitch, what are you trying to do to me?
You know, neither Don King or myself at the time were happy with Barry because of what he did. You know, it was not right, and, you know, he should have, basically should have played the game, and he didn't play the game. But, you know, it all came back on him because Eubanks left him, Steve Collins left him, and as you know, Nigel Benn left him straight after the fight.
Well, you said they probably wouldn't have a third fight unless it was a draw. It is a draw.
Could it possibly be a third timer?
Well, I bet neither of the boxer wants it. I mean, unless they're going to pay a hell of a lot of money. And
There was to be no third fight. Benn's career went on to parallel Eubank when he was involved in a similar tragedy to Michael Watson as he paralyzed and blinded Gerald McClellan. Soon afterwards, aged 32, he retired after first losing his title and then a further 2 fights to Steve Collins.
Having a third fight, I don't know. You kind of say to yourself, you've got to be realistic with yourself, and you think, well, am I fighting for money or am I fighting for titles? If you fight for titles, money follows automatically. But if you're fighting for money, you ain't gonna get it. You ain't gonna get it. Because not only that, you know, you can remember being bashed from pillar to post, been hurt, a lot of internal damage. And then you got to say to yourself, oh, I don't know, mate. Got 5 lovely kids, and you kind of say to yourself, it catches up with you. New kids on the block, let them have their shot.
Steve Collins also signalled an end to Eubank's career. But the man who called boxing a mug's game didn't get out as easily as his rival. After losing his undefeated record and title, Eubank retired, but then made a comeback, challenging for world titles again, but never regaining one. The man the country loved to hate had finally got his comeuppance.
I never mimicked. I never ever said, you know, you are horrible. You know, you the crowd. I didn't abuse them. It was all through mimicking that they bought into. Well, my psyche or my antics. And it's fantastic because even for the people who may still dislike me today, I entertained you. You know, you were on the edge of your seat, you know. And most of you are when you're around anyway.
Dempsey and Tunney, Robinson, LaMotta, Leonard, Duran, you always think of one and automatically link it with the other, and so it'll be with Benn and Eubank. They each defined the other's career.
It's seldom you find 2 men that would be prepared to do anything to win, to put themselves through any amount of torture to achieve their goal. But probably the 2 things that summed Benn and Eubank up as special individuals, both of them, was the pride they had. At the end of the day, it was just raw pride. It was nothing to do with the money. It was nothing to do with the belts.
The bitter rivalry between Glasgow Celtic and Glasgow Rangers tomorrow at 6. Next tonight on UK Horizons, 21 years of Top Gear, The X-Files.